eyes in order to turn inward, to come home to this spaciousness that is our true nature, out of which everything arises. And so it's like this, it's a gift to ourselves. Meditation is a gift to ourselves, especially close-eyed meditation in a group of like-souled beings. So close your eyes and fall into love together. And so it is. The fundamental teaching for this Sangha and the other small groups that we do in South Maui is based in the garden story, the Garden of Eden, where we fell out of our hearts and into our minds. Directionally, that's kind of opposite. But at that point in the kind of myth of the arising of humankind on this planet, the Garden of Eden is kind of the seminal story of this experience of no longer feeling the connection and the experience of oneness, but feeling, and which put us into our mind. And we left the heart, which is the field of allowing. I do believe that, and this is a radical teaching, but that we made up a heart with our mind. And that's where many of us who felt that we were heart-based people, right, had an experience of still being conflicted, still being judgmental, because the substitute heart was created by the rational analytic mind, which is what took over when we moved out of connection and into the polarity of the good and bad, right and wrong, the polarity and the underpinning of fear. And so out of this ancient myth or story, we have the results of that now looking like huge personal, collective trauma and adversarial interactions. And but it portends in terms of the morphogenetic field of consciousness. What many of us sense is that there's enough perturbation going on that it could reintegrate into a higher form that would be, and with using the myth we started with, a return to the garden. So it's, I think it's in response to that collective sense of things going on now, that, and through technology, of course, that we see all of the response in all of us and with many, all over the planet to a larger possibility, a larger vision, a greater sense of our own true nature. And it's in that statement of purpose that these small groups have arisen. I've been back on Maui. I lived on Maui for many years, then was gone for a short period. And when I came back, the only place I could find to live was in South Maui. And I'd never lived in South Maui before. I'd always lived up in Kula and Sprecklesville or in different areas. Mid Maui or the Kula area. But when I came back 6 years ago, I found an apartment here in Maui Meadows, actually. And it was then that I realized I had clients here. I had people that I did this work with, this consciousness work, this wakening up work that we do together. But I'd never lived down here, but I landed here and it was like all of us had been waiting to get together, right? So I always appreciate anybody who shows up and for our time together, for the work that we do together, because understanding the nature of reality as we've begun to do, even from my kindergarten model of quantum physics, right? It's still the field. It's the field of allowing. It's the field of potentiality and the way that we interface frequency-wise with that then shows up as a 3D reality. And like, who knew, right? It's like that it works that way. All of us have had, and not every, well, I'm probably the elder in the room, but through the cycles of interest in consciousness and spirituality and all of the different iterations that that's had in the collective, all of us have come upon at some point or another you create your own reality. Well, now with quantum physics, we know exactly how we do that. It still may mystify us as how to do that consistently, but we do know that it's a frequency reality, and that the impact of the double slit experiment, which was when, as the scientists often say, when consciousness entered the laboratory, that when a light wave was observed, it turned into a photon, it materialized. And then in this Sangha here, we all read Paul Levy's book, Quantum Revelation, and then had him on a Zoom call with us, with our Sangha. And it's helpful to understand, how does this work, right? It's like, we all kind of sense that you create your own reality was accurate in some way that just mystified us, right? And we didn't know whether to effort more or to stop working at all, right? So now we understand that it's a frequency game, and that our frequency can be experienced by our feeling in our body mind. So we do have a kind of litmus test that we can measure without being directly cause and effect measuring, but we can be aware of our state of being and understand that as the frequency that is in the information into the quantum field, and that field then responds by showing up as a 3D reality, and that it has no preference, right? We're the ones who bring the polarities of good and evil, black and white, right and wrong. The quantum field doesn't have polarity in it, right? So it's a fascinating time to be alive and to be participating in gatherings with like-minded ones, and on Zoom, of course. So the practice that we use in these groups in South Maui that I focalize has to do with a teaching in a book called Choose Again, that was based in A Course in Miracles, and was written by a man named Diederik Walsack. Are we doing something?
I'm just putting the 6 steps on the screen.
Okay. And as a technology for clearing out basically the shadow, childhood wounds, right? Everything that's so prevalent now in the collective consciousness, and that shows up in all the technology as to the impact and the trauma and the influence that comes from our early childhood experience. I think of it as the incarnational experience. The 6 Steps to Freedom is in Diederik Walsack's book, Choose Again. And somehow I came upon that. And before that, when in working with people and in small groups, I had used Ho'oponopono because I deeply intuited that the shifting out of the limitation of our mind and back home into our hearts in connection had to do with forgiveness. And that was what I had been using for years in my own practice. So in the 6 Steps to Freedom, as we began to teach and use those to clear out triggers, reactivity, all that, we have established a practice in this Sangha grouping and in others that we gather with during the week. And the practice is for each of us, and we can facilitate this between 2 of us or more, is the practice of the 6 steps. The first step in the 6 steps is to acknowledge that I'm triggered, so that we experience the contraction, the reactivity, they didn't include me when they had a party. Right, I'm triggered. They didn't. Whatever happened that creates a reaction in us and a feeling of being shut down, or whatever the negative feeling is, that is seen as a trigger. The second step is to acknowledge that this experience that I'm having is about me. That's a huge shift because it takes us out of victim mentality and into what do I have access to in my experiencing right now. It looks like they did it to me, but if I can bring this home, it's about me. Then we're on the right track. We're in an arena, we're in an area where something can actually shift, right? As long as it's about them, we're pretty much screwed, right? It's like, okay, I sure hope she changes. Right? All we can do is hope and pray for that other person who's so obviously out of line. Right? So as we acknowledge it's about me, the third step is what am I feeling? What is this feeling experience of being ignored or left out? What is this triggered experience I'm having? And typically what we'll find is that I'm angry, I'm reactive, I'm hurt, I'm alone, whatever that is, so that we use that experience. And is that step 3? Is that
Feel the feeling, yeah.
feel the feeling? Yeah, so we use that feeling experience to move to the fourth step, which is using that experience, go back in my mind and my heart and my memory to when the first time that I can recall feeling that same way. And oftentimes this will lead us to an early childhood memory. It doesn't have to be the furthest back, but it will be in our memory bank, some experience in which these same feelings came up. So the fourth step is to using that memory. When I had that experience, when I often use an analogy like I was at kindergarten the first day and mommy was late picking me up and I felt so unwanted and uncared for and abandoned. And so using that, when that occurred, the fourth step is using that experience and that memory of that experience to see what you concluded that it meant about you. Because as the 3-year-old, as the 4-year-old, as the infant, even before language, we can conclude energetically, I'm not good enough, I don't matter, I'm not cared for. So with the fourth step, we come to a conclusion.
That's actually fifth. Fourth is the early
The
memory.
memory,
and
the fifth
is
step.
conclusion.
Come with me to the fifth step now. Yeah, the fifth step is the conclusion. That's right.
Mm.
And that conclusion, because for the little one, it was so abhorrent to believe that I don't matter, I'm not good enough, that it gets repressed. At this point, my sense of what psychologically or energetically occurs is that it gets repressed and then it creates, and this is mixing metaphors, but it creates a distortion lens through which we see reality. And so that conclusion was the information that got installed that has created our experience of the out there, the external reality. 6. Mm-hmm. The sixth step in the 6 steps to freedom process is to invoke the light of awareness on this conclusion, which was unavoidable but never true, is to see I am the awareness of that. If I can see anything, like I can see that distortion lens through which I continue to experience and view my reality, if I can see that, I am the one that sees it. And I can forgive through forgiveness. I forgive myself for ever having believed that I don't matter. So that is the 6 steps to freedom that we use in the groups here in the South Maui Sanghas, and that everybody, and they've been spreading out in terms of other people who do similar work or who have small groups have begun to use them. If there's anybody in here who's had an experience with the 6 steps that they'd like to share, I can't.
Actually, I shared my own history, but I'd like to share it.
Yes, please. Is that Shakti?
It's shocking.
Yes, dear.
Because I feel sort of so new to all of this. I don't even.
Well, I love you
have
talking
any
about it.
knowledge.
Yeah.
And so I had an experience with a friend where we sat together. And my upset and projections were coming out in the form of the 6 steps.
Hmm.
And that I'm so grateful that it's kind of infiltrated me to be right there in the moment. And it's so relieving.
Right.
So that's my experience.
Yeah, well, that's having this, this is like a tool set, having this algorithm, so to speak, of how to measure so that I'm not immediately magnetized into the suffering, because that tends, what our wounded, when we are triggered, what our wounded experience tends to have us do is to either blame ourselves or to shut down and to try to make nice or to try to alienate ourselves maybe from the other person. So it's very powerful to start to have a handle through the 6 steps. In our groups here, and in working with people individually, I've been aware that there was the inability to identify as what is offered by the 6th step, which is the forgiveness, because I am the awareness of it. I am not that, right? That it was a kind of stumbling block, because in the 6th step, to forgive, what is required for the real forgiveness is the identification, the knowing of yourself as the awareness, so that it's the bright light of awareness shining on this unavoidable but never true conclusion. I don't matter, right? But what I was feeling and experiencing, and I talked to some different people in the Sangha about this, what was happening for most everybody was that they were forgiving the person who had been the wounded child. They were doing the forgiveness at that level. And so for the transcendent potential of knowing your true nature as the awareness, it was kind of being lost in that 6th step. Does this make sense to everybody?
Yes.
And so in my own meditation, I thought, we need a 7th step, right? So, and what the 7th step is it's the shift from knowing, having had the experience and knowing yourself as that wounded child, right? It really happened. That really happened. But now, as I move into forgiveness, I am the bright light of awareness, which is my true nature, shining on that. So now my identity as having been formed out of that early conclusion is being simply washed away. You know how if you have a light bright enough and you shine it on anything, whatever you're shining it on disappears, right? So this is the nature of this, the 6th step, the 7th step that we're bringing in now, is to more and more know yourself as the awareness of the story. It may start with the trigger, but you know the story so well, you see what the conclusion was, and you see that that's what created your sense of yourself as a me, as a personality, right? I'm the one who gets her feelings hurt if she's not included, if she's not invited. If girlfriends have lunch and they don't include me, right? Or I'm the one that feels really uncomfortable in groups. Everybody else I know, they're all feeling really comfortable, not me. I don't feel good about talking in groups, right? So we've identified with the me that got created out of the woundedness. When we move through the 6 steps, we're revealing, we're unfolding, we're peeling back the creation of that conclusion that fundamentally at the heart of my identity as a me, as a person, was installed with that conclusion. With this 7th step, what we're looking for, and this is the radical shift in consciousness that's going on around this planet that I spoke of earlier, is that shift from being the me that is focused and identified as a body-mind unit who was mistreated or left out as a child, who believes she's not good enough. The seventh step is to move into experiencing myself as the awareness of that me, that wounded one. I know myself as the truth of who I am. I am the awareness in which all reality arises. And now I've cleared that lens to some degree. I've cleared it so that, this is a perceptual reality. As viewed, so appears. So now I'm seeing clearly without as much distortion in that lens. So that was my what was it, a revelation that we needed a seventh step, because I was feeling that I was leaving people with a me that had done a little bit of shadow work, right? Yeah. But what we're looking for in this Sangha is the transformation into true nature, because we're looking to be the catalyst for a shift in consciousness on this planet. Sorely needed, as we would all agree, right? Yeah, so that was my aha with the seventh step. That is my description of it, but I would love to have any questions now.
Let me just say,
Yeah.
because a lot of us have been in the 6 steps a long time, and we say here in the 6 steps, shine the light of awareness on the conclusion to dispel it, and that our true nature is awake awareness. So we've been talking about that, we've been doing that, but the piece that we've been in discussion with about the 7th step is really that turn to that you're pointing to of identifying with, shifting the identification to I am the awake awareness, and the whole world arises in that. So right now I'm the awake awareness in the 6th step who's seeing this, holding this, being in there's still something in relationship to something else. There's still that piece, even as it's dissolving, there's still a relationship to it. And in the 7th step, and correct me if I've got this, I don't have this right, but in the 7th step, we are the awake awareness in the story. Right. That's the identity shift.
Yeah, that's a really good distinction.
Is
Mother.
there.
Yeah, I think that's really clarifying. And so it's something for us to start to live into, because we have been doing the work. And I know that Diederik and his, what's it called, Robert, his school, 10-day?
The book is the 6 steps of freedom.
Choose again.
Choose again. Choose again. 6 steps of freedom is the book.
And what is his workshop called? Choose again? I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had different names, but it's all the same thing.
Right. Yeah, but what I felt in reading the book and in doing the work, which we've used extensively, is that it stalls out in step 6. And we're not here to stall out with a modified, less shadow identity. That's not what we're here for.
There's a question here. So is there still a me in the 6th step?
In the 6th step, what I found was that there was most of the time still a me. And
a me as a wounded
a me as identifying as now somebody who is not hypersensitive to being left out, for instance. I've seen through what caused that as my childhood wound, but there's still a me. So who asked that?
Linda.
Yeah, that's exactly the shift we're looking for with the 7th step. It's out of the identity as a me who's fearful and polarized and judgmental of myself and others, out of that and into the knowing of who I am as the bright light, the shining of the bright light of awareness. I am the awareness in which all of this arises.
So many of us have had the experience of this miraculous seeing of that me, right? And the dissolution of that me, but we haven't made that shift to identifying with the awake awareness.
Right. And there may be partial shifts. It may have occurred for everybody in the room or on the call that in the moment where that 6th step is being seen and experienced, you are free of the me. But it's, what I'm finding is that the, the tattered tag-along ragtag me thing keeps hanging on, right? It's like, and so as we go through these steps, I do believe that if we have the vision and if we have the possibility of the truth of our true nature, the truth of who we are as the awake awareness in which this reality arises, then we will be shifting frequency, and that shift in frequency is in truth our contribution to a new heaven and a new earth. So I understand that it's a little foggy right now. It is for me too, as I've been moving into trying to intuit what I felt was needed and not being all that clear about it. So I appreciate this being a laboratory for for this as a possibility. Yeah.
Hi, Shakti, and then Colleen.
Well, what's wondrous over here is I was sitting before the event, and I heard a voice saying, I wish there was a seventh step. I thought, wow, that's a very greedy concept. But I'm going the first six. And so exciting to hear you say this. And then to hear the definition. What I'm hearing on some level is that people, as we recover from our traumas, which is retelling the story and refeeling the investigation over and over, and somehow we need a dissociation from that when we move into the graduation.
Perfectly. Thank you. That's so well said, Shakti. And I appreciate your intuitive voice.
That was a lot of fun. I wanted to stand up.
Thank you. Yeah. 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 We're not in the business of psychologically overcoming the trauma of a childhood wound. We're in the business of being free from the identity of the one who was created by that experience. Yeah, thank you, Shakti. And who was next?
Colleen, are you raising your hand over there?
I've never done this work before, so I have a
Who's this?
thought, but I'm not sure.
Jerry.
Do you mind? Yeah, go ahead.
So I've never done this work. I don't know. I've never done anything like this. I've been doing more Buddhist meditation for 60 years. So what with my experiences is sometimes having a deep experience of impermanence, of just arising in the moment, and no real substance, no reality is arising. And so when I think about childhood traumas and all that, it all seems like clouds flying by. Why pay attention to that? Because it's just a momentary thought and it passes, and it doesn't seem to leave a big impression if I don't pay attention to it. And then the second part of it is what you focus attention on to amplify. So the question I also have is why amplify what doesn't work when you can just experience and enjoy experience that sense of impermanence. So it's a very different model.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying, Jerry, and the ability to live at a higher frequency that you're pointing to. But what I found, and I think of what happened for this body-mind unit, and for the ones I work with, in the vernacular, I say you can't put sugar over shit. And that oftentimes it can't, if it's just moving and you're experiencing the freedom and the ease of true nature, of course you don't need to go digging up trauma. But if you're triggered, then you've already dug it up. And so that's the distinction I'd make between the two models. But yeah, for sure. Yeah. Attention does grow whatever you put the attention on. but the attention needs to be put on what's underneath that's running the show that's not being acknowledged. I know that practices like the Buddhist practice and like many spiritual practices can elevate one in consciousness beyond where that's needed to be, because you're already identified as true nature. So it's, I agree. But I was one who'd put a lot of sugar over a lot of shit for a lot of years.
That's the tricky thing, because I've done, years of Buddhist practice too. We can go to impermanence, but we can't, to live there, it's tricky. And in Buddhism, we say, the shit is the fuel for the path. So you want to, especially in Tibetan Buddhism, I don't know what in Buddhism, but you want the triggers. You want to use it because it gives you something to burn and to purify. And that's really what the triggers are, is an opportunity to burn this lens, this covering over this pure essence, pure being that we are. So we welcome the triggers. We want the triggers until we're unmoved when they arise. So they're a jewel, they're a gift, anytime we feel a trigger, it's like, and sometimes finding the triggers is the hardest thing, because we're so numbed over, or we're so have adaptive behavior that says everything's fine. So I know you said you put sugar over shit, and I know I am just discovering some of these conclusions, and as I let myself feel them and have them, the opening is unbelievable. It's incredible. So, there's so many different paths, and if this is one of them, that's all I would say. This is one of the paths of working your shit so that you can become free. If you don't have any shit, you're free. You're free.
Yeah.
But if you have shit, this is a good place to compost.
It's clean.
Clean.
So about a year ago, when I started to work with you, Pali, I also started listening to Guruji,
Uh-huh.
and he has this way, and it's been really phenomenal doing this work and listening to him. He has this way of directing the person to just empty out
Right.
everything.
Leave everything out there.
Yep, leave
Yeah.
everything at the door, leave the past, you have nothing to do today, you're here now.
Right.
And it just, for me, it's a very strong transmission.
Right.
And when we did the last immersion, I had this urge inside of me of like, I want to know how to merge the two works, because I feel like watching Muji and getting that transmission, it's helping me in the 6 steps to get more in touch with my true nature, even if it's just for that 15-minute video, right? And you're doing it now. That's, to me, that's like what you're doing.
And that's
bringing that in.
right. I always encourage people to check out, as I'm sure everybody in here does, check out the YouTube of spiritual teachers, because there may be one that's just the perfect fit. Just like I know the exercise that Muji does that you're pointing to, and it's really, really valuable. Yeah. Right. The ability, or even the concept, that we can leave stuff behind, right? That we can leave that mental, that triggered identity. I'm a piece of shit. I don't matter. If we can leave that at the door and come into the space that Jerry was pointing to.
And I think that it's also pretty subtle too. And that it seems like, from my experience, that the more I practice doing it, the stronger, like any muscle, right? The stronger it gets, the more in touch I get with who I really am, not these stories.
Right. Yeah, I love an analogy that Rupert Spira uses of an actor who's starring on Broadway's King Lear, and he's got his friend comes to meet him off stage after he's completed the performance, and his actor friend has been playing King Lear is in the dressing room, and and sorrow and tears and weeping and wailing. And his friend says, your performance was great. What's wrong? He says, oh, it's these three girls, these three daughters of mine, and there's a war with France. I don't know what I'm doing. And the guy said, you're not King Lear. Get it? You are not that persona, right? Which is what we all have to get, because we've created such a persona out of the different iterations of I'm a piece of shit or I don't matter, which is what the childhood wound installed. It because it creates, there's a confluence here of the understanding of quantum physics along with our understanding of our own inner experience energetically, that identity energetically. And when we can realize that we are not the person that got created, I sometimes think of an analogy as being, it's like this is a virtual reality game, right? And you've got your avatar, which we all have our avatar, but you are the awareness sitting in the Game Boy chair, and your Zelda or your guy or whatever is running around in the video game, right? So it's like it's a shift in identity. There's a shift here in terms of who I take myself to be, because the influence, what is it? The way in which we've been programmed over all of the years and in all of these different iterations. And we have all of these categories, and most all of them are underpinned by fear. And so we are moving through a collective, a morphogenetic field of the possibility of consciousness clearing and coming home. And so, because from that identity, a new reality arises. Seven steps. Making shit up again.
Would you say the seventh step again?
The seventh step is to know oneself as the awake awareness in which all of the first six have arisen. That would be one way to talk about
I
it.
thought that was the sixth step.
The sixth step is the forgiveness for what you have concluded, right? What I was finding, Becky, and the reason to look for a seventh step is that we did the forgiveness at the level of that conclusion, but we weren't yet identified with ourselves as awareness.
We're kind of teasing apart the sixth step into two, part A and part B.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, she
She said yes.
So would anyone like to do the six steps with Paul to get a felt sense of it? Either of you? I mean, you don't have to, anybody doesn't have to, or anybody on the call, because it's kind of in the doing of it that you really experience it. We're talking about it, it's a thought, it's a concept, but to actually do it is something else happening. Okay, Colleen.
Oh, okay.
So I was talking to Polly earlier about, I had this experience today where I had a conversation with a man.
Can you
And-
speak up a
sorry,
little bit?
Yes, I had a conversation with a man, and I felt that I actually stayed in my body the whole time, and we were celebrating that.
Yes.
And I noticed after it happened that I felt a little weird. And something was going on. And then after I got here, I really felt it. And so I know that there's, even though I got that I stayed in my body the whole time, there's something still, something that's been triggered.
Okay. Step one.
Um, I'm scared.
That's the feeling.
It's about me.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there more about that feeling? You feel scared?
Yeah, it's like I've done something wrong.
Right.
Like you've done something wrong to it's gonna create something bad.
Mm.
So I'm not gonna be safe.
Right.
Yeah, there's definitely something I'm saying.
Yeah, so you have an early memory of that same feeling?
Yeah, it feels very young. It was
Mhm.
like before speech.
Mhm.
I think like this conflict, that I loved my dad and loved his attention, but if I was too bright and shiny, then I would get bad attention.
Mhm.
And yeah, it just feels really like, yeah, there's this voice that's like, what are you doing?
Mm.
You know, about the whole thing today.
Like a warning?
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? What's wrong with you? Really, why are you doing that? And then this feels like this little girl that's just like, wants so much to
Yeah.
be the center of dad's eye, but then at the same time, like, gets how dangerous that is.
Right.
Yeah.
What start you saying?
It's
That was
just-
the memory before. So when all that was going on early for you, Colin, you concluded it meant something about you. You may have already spoken it, but it slipped by me.
Yeah, don't conceive, just like keep the wall up. Don't show up and be like I felt like I did today.
Mhm.
You know, like be present and be attractive.
Yeah.
Um, because that gets me in trouble. Like that
Mhm.
is like my innate light is dangerous
Uh-huh.
to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the fundamental conclusion was,
My light is dangerous.
right.
Or even like my essence, because it feels like at that young age,
Yes.
you know, that it's just me, you know, it's just like
That's right.
this.
Yeah.
So just being like who I am and being my essence is
Yeah.
dangerous. Yeah.
So if we see that now with so much more light on it. Right?
Yeah.
I forgive myself for ever having believed I have to shut down my light. Now we know that was true for the little girl.
Yeah.
So this is a place where it gets a little wobbly, but it's in the overarching reality of the nature of reality. It's like that was that conclusion was unavoidable, but never true. Does that make sense to you? It was unavoidable that that little girl concluded that. But in the larger sense of things and the optimum understanding of the nature of reality.
Yeah. I can feel how, I don't quite know why this makes sense, but that, like, the more I can identify with who I really am, that amazing sense that the safer she is,
Yeah,
the safer I am,
right.
because
That's right.
I'm with myself, I'm there for myself, I'm aware of anything I need to be aware of.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And what you just described takes us into the seventh step, which the sixth step was to forgive. I forgive myself for believing that. The seventh step is, I know I am the aware, what you just described, I am the awareness of that, right? I'm more and more myself. That's my truth. That's who I am.
right.
I am the awareness of all of that.
Yeah.
Yes. And so it is.
Thank you.
Thank you, sweetheart. Yeah, that's an ongoing elevation for you, a practice of
Right,
that light shining on that early experience and seeing through it.
yeah. Yeah.
But the seventh step is really, after that, after shining and seeing, identifying.
Identifying with that as awareness was what I'm like, the truth of who I am is the awareness of that. Can you go there, Colleen? I can't see you.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, I definitely
Yes.
feel, as soon as I can do that.
Yes.
And bring the forgiveness and then do that, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
I felt like this strength, like my voice and everything
Right,
was, yeah, different.
right, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm.
We have about 5 minutes. Are there any questions or any curiosities or any thoughts, feelings?
I'm sort of upset about like a world situation.
Who's talking?
Ashana.
Ashana?
Yeah, like I'm just finding the whole situation in the Middle
Mhm.
East deeply triggering.
Right,
And I was planning a whole trip to Europe this summer and I put like a ton of energy into it. And I thought that that's what was gonna happen. And now I don't wanna go because I wanna be out there traveling around with war going on.
right,
So what I'm triggered about is, I'm triggered about and feel stressed about the situation in the world that feels like it's limiting me from doing what it was I really wanted to do. And now I have the stress of having to reboot everything and change everything.
Mhm.
So that's what I feel really triggered about right now.
right.
So if I feel the feelings, it's like I feel stressed
Mhm.
and frustrated
Right,
and overwhelmed. And if I remember the feeling, it's like my parents fighting and they're gonna get a divorce or something, gonna kill themselves. It's like it's all gonna fall apart and I have to hold it together
right.
and make sure that everything's gonna be okay.
Amazing alignment with the current situation.
But I can't because I'm just a little kid.
Exactly,
So it's
that's
pretty
right.
hopeless.
And even now you can't because there's somebody else pulling the strings, right?
Yeah, like I can't really do anything about it
Right.
except.
And that was the truth in your family of origin.
Yeah, so in a
Mhm.
way I'm feeling kind of helpless.
Right.
Overwhelmed by it.
Right.
So the conclusion that I made is, I think that it's all gonna fall apart and I've already worked on this with you, Polly, and I'm frustrated it's not gone now. Because I already worked on this with you. So but the core thing is like, it's all gonna fall apart. I have to fix it, but I can't. And therefore I'm a failure.
Mhm.
Remember we worked on.
Right.
So if I shine the light on it.
Can you forgive yourself for believing that you're a failure?
I can forgive myself for believing that I was a failure
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because of circumstances that
Right.
were out of my control. And I was just a child. And even now, I'm just one person in a sea of samsara. um, and ultimately, I'm also the awake awareness.
You're also what?
The awake awareness.
Exactly.
It's
That's
awake and aware in the midst of it,
Yeah.
and I don't need to figure it out, and I can allow it
to work itself out when I'm not fixated on an identity that's trying to fixate.
Perfect. Yeah, you've been a good student, Sean.
I know, but even the awareness
But
does
it's
not
open.
change the quantum field yet. So you told me that it would
I
change.
have a meeting in DC. I'm gonna taking care of this shit. Yeah, the whole thing is to continue to allowing, that's the ongoing practice, is this field of allowing, which is your true heart, and that spaciousness. Nothing is ever stopped in the truth of the field of allowing, or the quantum field, whichever one we want to call it. Nothing is ever done and over and done with. It's all unfolding. And so our opening through our breath, your game, we're opening into more and more of the allowing for potentiality for things to come together in a way that would have a higher frequency than our fear and resentment. But
So it's when I pick it up again, because I've been I was like in the space of allowing.
Yes.
It's like, and then somehow I got hooked again. I got
Right.
overwhelmed by it again. So I picked up the identity.
yes, so when you start to be hooked again, if there's an intersection of awareness there, it's like to remind yourself that you are the awareness of that. That's step 7 now. I am the awareness of this is about to turn to shit again in my heart and mind, right? I mean, and in that way, to see that you are the one actually who is perceiving that that's going on, and you can shift your perception, right?
Move back into the field of allowing again.
Exactly,
And
both
so-
because you don't know what's happening. The reason that we get caught in polarity is because we believe one end of that stick is better than the other. Right? So that your freedom remains with you and in your experience of the opening. Yeah. Did we just lose people?
No, I just, I
It's
just.
leaving. I don't know what's happening.
It's all falling apart.
I took the 6 steps down.
Okay.
Are you good, Ashana? Who's over there?
Every time you
How did that identity shift go?
It's just really good to see it, because
So
that's
good.
the next level of work. It's just to see when I get hooked and bound in that identity again, then I'm suffering.
That's
And
right.
that I could just as easily come back to the awake awareness and let go of this need to control it and figure it out. Well, because I'm not the doer, I'm the awareness.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that was 7 steps.
That's right. You got it. You got it. That's good.
But there's a question.
When I heard you just talking there, it sounds like what you're saying is, my understanding, my translation of it, is that allowing is noticing impermanence. You're just noticing, oh, I'm doing this again, and you don't have to really bite. You just say, I'm noticing it,
Exactly.
And-
That's right.
okay,
Yeah.
that's what's happening now, and it just is, and you don't have to make a big deal about it, that's just what's coming up.
Exactly. That it's resistance that sticks things,
Yes, you're allowed.
Everything comes to pass unless we resist it or attach to it, right? So it's
the
true.
same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Different language.
Yeah. I love your language, Jared.
Huh?
I love your language. Thank you very much. Yeah. There's so much freedom and
Thad has
expression.
something he wants to say before
Okay.
we go into meditation. Yeah.
Yes, Thad. Is he talking?
Thad, go ahead.
Talk to your mama.
Oh, we
It was
lost.
frozen.
He's frozen. Oh, here he comes back. Oh,
Sorry, sorry, I actually didn't, but thank you, Mom Polly. That was great.
Good, honey.
That was
Yeah.
great. I have to say good night. Aloha. Thank
I love you,
you.
darling.
so what
Love
we're gonna,
you. Aloha. Good night.
aloha, Thad. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna.
Thank you, Robin.
You're welcome. We're going to play the field of allowing and go straight into meditation from there. We've got a new field of allowing
Song.
song that we made this week. So give me a second. We'll put this on and we'll go straight into meditation. So if you guys want to sit, there's chairs behind. There's all kinds.
Assume the position.
Yeah, wherever you want to. Hang on a second. All right. Here we go.
The mind is always moving like a bird against the cage, trying to fix the paradigm or turn a different page. But there's a quiet opening, a way to step outside, where the struggle for the right side finally begins to subside. It's not about improving the lens through which we see. We're taking up a position of who we're supposed to be. It's the simplest of motions, but the hardest one to find. Stepping out of the structure that we built inside the mind. And we're standing in the field of allowing now, where the spirit takes a silent, sacred vow. Beyond the right and wrong, the black and the white, beyond the dualities that keep us in the fight, it's our true heart, steady and wide, field of all potential with nowhere left to hide. They say the field is a mirror of the quantum sky above, where every possibility is an aspect of our love. Like the poem that Rumi wrote, a place where we can meet, beyond the should and shouldn't, the bitter and the sweet. It's a flowering and opening, a gift that can't be broken, the deepest kind of language that is never actually spoken. Awakening isn't moving the river where it flows. It's the grace of just allowing the way the river goes. No more fixing, no more choosing sides, just the unfolding. The highest potential is where the presence resides. It's the truth of who we are before the stories start to grow. In the field of possibility, there's nothing left to know. And we're standing in the field of allowing now, where the spirit takes a silent, sacred vow. Beyond the right and wrong, the black and the white, beyond the dualities that keep us in the fight, it's our true heart, steady and wide, the field of all potential with nowhere left to hide. It's an opening, it's a flowering, just the truth.